This webinar is being recorded, so we'll post it on our YouTube channel either tomorrow or Monday, and I'll send out an email with the links of the resources that we discussed tonight, so you'll be able to refer back to it as you need to. Awesome. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn off my video, but I just wanted to say a quick hi. All right, these days we're probably all feeling pretty familiar with online webinar and meeting platforms. Just in case you haven't used Zoom very much, I just want to give you a couple tips. When I shared my screen and went full screen, it probably went full screen for you. I'm going to go ahead and recommend that you exit full screen. What this is going to allow you to do is dock the chat window to the side of your screen so that you can see any conversation that's happening there, because I want to be sure we can all share resources together. So you'll find that little speech bubble icon that says chat, click on that, and then that should dock the window once you exit full screen. The other thing you want to make sure is that your to field is sending to all panelists and attendees. That way you can see what each other are saying. So let's go ahead and test this out. Go ahead and find your chat window, and why don't you say your name and what kind of educator you are, where you're from, and how you are feeling about this new school year. Debbie from Lawrence, cool. But teaching in Haiti, yeah, challenge is figuring out how to do it remotely. Our neighbor Steve from New York, special ed at BOCES, awesome. Happy to be back in school. Welcome Jane, welcome Trisha. Trying to focus on the positives of the hybrid schedule, love it. Hi Teresa from Peoria. Hello Amanda. Naturalist, awesome. So we've got some formal educators, we've got some informal educators. Tori's figuring out how to do environmental science virtually. Yeah, that's a stuff that begs to be hands-on, isn't it? Awesome. Great to see all these different kinds of educators here tonight. Hopefully we'll all find resources and that we can use. Please feel free as I'm going through, if you think of a resource from another organization or something you've come across online, feel free to share that in the chat window too. I know that there's so many great resources out there right now, and as we are all struggling to find our footing, reminding ourselves of the positive of being an educator, even in challenging times, I just love that we can all support each other with these great resources. So as I mentioned before, my name is Kelly, and I'm coming to you from the lab's remote network of staff members. And at the lab, our mission is to interpret and conserve the Earth's biological diversity through research, education, and citizen science focused on birds. I work specifically with the K-12 education team, and our mission is really to create innovative resources and training that builds science skills while inspiring young people to connect to local habitats, explore biodiversity, and engage in citizen science projects. And I'm the outreach coordinator with the team. Tonight I am joined by the wonderful Susan, who will be in the chat window with us, She will be there to share links for you and answer questions. And if you have any technical difficulties, she'll message you privately and help you work through those. So just let us know in the chat window how we can help. Awesome. So my goals for tonight's webinar are just to kind of get you introduced to some resources that we have out here. One of the things that I love about the lab is that they have so much amazing stuff going on, and I love that my job is helping to package that and make it available to educators. But there's so much stuff out there that if you haven't explored all of the lab's resources, you might not have come across it yet. So I just want to point out some stuff to you that I think might be useful. I'm going to approach this through the lens of our Cooped Up Kids resources, and I'll tell you more about those in just a minute here, but these are resources that we created in response to uh, schools going remote in spring. And so they're pretty well uniquely designed to these current situations that we find ourselves in, and do a lot of work pulling in these resources from all around the lab. So that's kind of how we'll be approaching things, but then at the end, I will also take us through just some other resources that are out there, some of which are touched in on Cooped Up Kids and some of which aren't. So let's talk about the Cooped Up Kids lessons. The full names are Science and Nature Activities for Cooped Up Kids. These were really designed with families in mind at first because there was kind of a lag for some of the country before teachers and schools were ready to begin remote learning after they closed their doors for a time. So as the situation evolved, educators were jumping in and putting out all this great effort to make learning available to their students remotely. The resource evolved as well. And so now it's really great for families who are learning individually and educators who are working in a classroom setting. They are articulated across the grade bands. So each activity has a theme, and each one has its own version for K2, 3, 5, and 6, 8. Our approach to these grade bands changes a little bit as we go. For the K2, we assume that there's an adult guiding them through the slides for the most part. For 3, 5, and 6, 8, it's largely independent work. So we do try to incorporate independent work in the K2 as well, in writing prompts and art. And we try to make these kind of multidiscipline, right? So we really have a STEM focus, but we include art, we include ELA, and we include lots of hands-on and outdoor activities. Knowing that some students are in situations where they can't go outside right now or don't have super easy access to safe places outside, there are indoor adaptations for every outdoor activity. So we try to make this as broadly applicable to the US as we can. We also have quests that accompany and were inspired by the Cooped Up Kids activities. These are, I like to think of them as bite-sized challenges. Again, designed more with families in mind, but would be great for kids in classrooms to do as kind of these missions after school and reporting back to each other. There are outdoor versions and indoor versions of quests, and they're broken down on our website into different sections. And I'll ask Susan to share the link in the chat window to both the Cooped Up Kids main page and the quests page, so you can go ahead and go through them. What I love about the outdoor quests is they're fun, hands-on, they're related to the Cooped Up Kids content. And what I love about the indoor quests is they do a great job of pulling in all these amazing resources from the lab, like fun interactives on how to choose the right bird house for your area, or checking out this mural that has all the diverse birds of the world. So I definitely recommend checking these out if you're just looking for little things that you can push out for families to do at home. So let's dive in to Cooped Up Kids a little bit more in depth. The first thing you'll see when you click on one of the links from our website is this adult-facing doc. So this is a Google Doc that has the introduction, the background information, the quests, the setup that you'll need to do, the materials you'll need on hand. So it's all in there for you to help you prepare. There's some facilitator instructions. If you're K2 and you're kind of being an adult guide for these students, there's even like prompts for questions that you can ask and ways that you can talk about the slides as you go through them with your child or with your students. The format of the content is in Google Slideshows. We found that they're pretty accessible to most folks. Some schools do have kind of a block on some of the Google software, but these slideshows can be downloaded and uploaded into whatever shared platform you are using. One of the things that we do ask is some of the media in there is kind of exclusive to the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, so don't repackage it or put it on a website, that sort of thing. But if it stays as part of the Cooped Up Kid slides, you're fine. Don't sweat it. We've been really happy to hear from educators that this format has been proving to be adaptable, and would love to hear from you if you end up using these, how this format works, any suggestions for tweaks that you might have. Because this is definitely an evolving process for us as well. I'm sure you're all used to that feeling right now. So this is kind of where the slides look like. We have some images that are kind of like codes for you're going to be doing this type of activity now. So you can see this beautiful paint palette and colored pencil slide format. Those are your art and writing prompts, whereas we have these try it slides, which are about actually doing an activity or exploring an interactive. This one points you to Flap the Future, which is a fun interactive game. I'll show you more about that later. So we have content slides, and then we have these fun activity slides. And each one has a nice mix of content and activities. As I mentioned, they are all themed. So here are the themes that we have so far. We focus on the diversity of birds in activity 1, and then in activities 2 through 4, we really dive into the nesting cycle. We also hit on how to identify your birds in your own backyard or neighborhood. And then we dive into some of the really fun bird biology things. One of my favorite ones is Activity 8, Earth Expedition, where we have videos from scientists and photographers and videographers who study birds around the world, and they tell us a little bit about their work. And you kind of get this glimpse into what it's like to be an ornithologist or a conservation media expert. So all sorts of different themes that we touch on here, hopefully something for you and for your audience as well. We are updating these at a slower pace. We were doing one a week at the beginning of the spring, and we took a break over summer, and now we're coming back kind of with bonus activities as, you know, we discover a timely topic. So actually, it's not coming soon anymore. We just released activity 10 today, and we'll put it on social media tomorrow, and that is observing and questioning. And so it'll guide you through the first 2 steps of the scientific process. All right, so let's take a little bit of a look at some of these activities and what they will look like across the grade bands. So I mentioned that activity 5 is bird ID, and I wanted to show you our approach for that across a couple different grade bands so you could see how we're approaching that. And we'll try out a couple things. So for our K2 students, we incorporated Crow, Not Crow, which is a really fantastic book that breaks down bird ID and makes it super accessible for our youngest learners. Oh, I see somebody in the chat is also a fan of Crow Not Crow. I'm gonna like tell a story here on myself for a second. The first time I read it, I don't know why, but I almost cried. I was just really moved by it. It's just such a lovely approach to birding. So in the story, there is a little girl who is learning to bird, and she's worried she's not as good as her brother. So we'll watch just maybe a super short clip of it, just so you can get a feel for the presentation. This is read by my friend and colleague Leo Stack. Oh, you're not hearing it. Okay, 1 second. Sorry for that. Let me stop my share and see if I can fix it. Let's jump ahead a little bit.
The first day Dad took me out birding, the sky was the color of Mom's old pearl ring. The trees were draped with birds. It was very noisy. My brothers all love to go out birding with Dad. They don't have any trouble telling one bird from another. But to me, birds look pretty much the same: wings, beak, and legs. And sometimes when I see them flying far away, they are just blurs against the sky. Maybe the boys have better eyes, I said. Dad handed me a pair of small binoculars, just the right size for my hands. Your eyes are fine, he told me. You just have to learn how to see and what to look for.
So I love that approach, that it's just about learning what to look for. And this book breaks it down, makes it super easy by just kind of having what we like to call a focus bird. And Crow is her focus bird. And she learns that it's all black: black wings, black legs, black eye, black beak. And she just starts out birding by learning, is it a crow or not a crow? So every bird she looks at, is it a crow or not a crow? And by the end, she's noticing all these wonderful differences in the birds that she's looking at. So it's a really great book for K2 kids to get them interested in birding, but also make it seem really doable. So one of the activities that we suggest for the K2 crowd is going out and doing your own crow not crow walk. And you can choose to do crow not crow, or robin not robin, or pigeon not pigeon. Um, anything that would make sense for what location you are. When we approach it with 3-5, we sort of dive into some deeper levels of content. We talk about the 4 clues to bird ID with the K2, but we get a little more in depth with 3-5. So we talk about size and shape, color pattern, behavior, habitat, and range. And we kind of approach that in some basic ways. What's nice about being online is we can do fun stuff, like have this GIF of a heron fading into black so you can see what a silhouette is. And we talk about how shape helps you identify birds to a group. And once you identify the type of bird that it is, it's a lot easier to identify it to species. So let's, for the fun of it, test our knowledge with some silhouettes. So you'll see here that I have 6 silhouettes on our slide, and in Cooped Up Kids, we challenge the students to write down their guesses for what type of bird they're looking at. So let's just look at a couple here and do it for fun. In the chat window, why don't you go ahead and tell me what you think silhouette number 1 is? What group of birds? Owl. Yeah. Oh, somebody even saying specifically great horned owl. So what clues are you using that make you think specifically a great horned owl? those tufts, the little ear tufts, yeah. And if we want to get to owl, for me, I'm looking at the posture and the size of that head. So that's something that we talk about is with the older groups is how birds move and how they hold themselves can be great identification clues. All right, we're gonna skip number 2. Jane already guessed that one. That one's the duck. Let's go to number 3. Anybody have a guess for what group they think number 3 belongs to? Unanimously saying woodpecker. Awesome. All right, let's do one more. Let's look at maybe the trickiest one here. What do you think about number 4? What group do you think number 4 might represent? And this can be a very basic group. Awesome. I'm seeing passerines and songbirds. Yep. And then I'm seeing some more specific guesses of thrushes and robins. Yeah, so we called that a songbird, but thrush, robin, those are great. Passerine is great too. Let me ask you, if you guessed robin, what made you think robin about this silhouette? Posture, belly, and beak. Yeah, they have kind of this rounded barrel chest, don't they? We have some great videos that we should probably find a link to. Susan, if you can't find them, I'll share it in the chat window later. We have some great videos if you're interested in teaching bird identification called Inside Birding. And you can find them on the Bird Academy site, and I can show you where. And in them, Jesse and Chris describe a robin, and they call it a chunky bird. And now they really are. When I look at them, they just have this great heft to them. So yeah, this one is in fact a silhouette of a robin. Nice job, everyone. What I love about doing these silhouettes with kids is even if they think they don't know birds, they probably know the silhouette of a duck, right? So you start doing this and you realize that, oh my gosh, I know more about birds than I thought I did. So it makes you feel like, hey, I can do this. So that's what I enjoy about doing silhouettes. And Susan did just share the link to the video in the chat window. Thank you, Susan. All right, so once we get to that silhouette part, we do kind of a fun matching game. So we have this silhouette of a blue jay, and then we have these 4 silhouettes on the right. So which silhouette do you think matches the blue jay? Upper right, upper left, lower right? Seeing a couple different answers here. Yeah, so you really got to kind of look at the shapes of body parts. That's my big clue. If we read our text over here, we see that we say it has a crest, a relatively long and thin beak, and a rounded belly. So let's check out our next slide. If you said upper left, you are correct. We can see that longish, thinnish beak, a rounded belly. All of these birds have a crest. Some are slicked down, some are straight up. Upper right, we'll notice that the beak is too thick and chunky, so that makes this one a cardinal. The lower right, the bird is smaller relatively, and it has a little tiny pointy beak, and that is our tufted titmouse. And then lower left, a very slender bird with a very thin crest. This is our cedar waxwing. Awesome. So we take it a little bit further with the 6-8. So we use and introduce Merlin to all grade levels. And if you aren't familiar with Merlin, I highly recommend you check it out. This is a free bird identification app from the Lab of Ornithology. And it does a really fantastic job of helping you narrow down the birds that you're looking for. It asks you 5 really simple questions, 2 of which your smart device already knows. You can also do this on our website. So it asks you, where are you, what was the date, and then what is the size of the bird you're looking at on a scale of birds you probably know: sparrow, robin, crow, goose. And that's why we have this picture of a robin down below. We want to challenge our older kids to use that robin to compare the sizes to the other birds, their other mystery birds, and try and use that information to help them identify the bird. And then the next questions are about colors. And the final one is about what it's doing. So I'm seeing a question in the chat window from Sarah about how the Merlin app is different from the Audubon app. I don't have the Audubon app on my phone anymore because I ran out of space. But from my understanding, the Audubon app that I had was kind of just a field guide on your phone, right? You needed to look up the birds and you could read about them and listen to sounds. Merlin includes some ID help. So you have these 5 questions that you go through. You answer the 5 questions. It's going to provide you a list of birds in your area on that day that you might see from citizen science data. So you might get a list of 5 birds to look at instead of a whole field guide to look through. But again, I haven't used the Audubon app in a while, so I don't know if they've made changes. I loved to listen to the different sounds between them. And Merlin also now has a photo ID tool, so you could actually hold it up to one of these images and it would identify the birds for you. Debbie's saying that Audubon looks like they have an ID tool now too. That's awesome. More birds for everybody. So I just wanted to kind of go through and show you how we differentiate some of this bird identification material and across the grade bands. So another thing that we do is we cover in depth some great concepts for students, including life cycles and nesting cycle. And because these are heftier concepts with a lot of content, we do divide them across multiple activities. So these Cooped Up Kids lessons really do build across each other, and I think there's a strong advantage in going through the whole suite. But if that doesn't fit your teaching setting or your time allotment, there are certain ones that you can pick out and pool and do alone. The nesting cycle, I do recommend that if you can, you do all of them. Those are activities 2 through 4, 2, 3, 4. That's how numbers work. And I just want to kind of give you an idea of some of the activities hands-on that we have built into these. So these slides are from the middle part of the nesting cycle, building nest and laying eggs, and incubating eggs. So this is the kind of the first part once the nest is going. And we do some fun stuff. We draw from our bird camps, which I'll talk more about later, to provide that little hook that kids need to get excited. So oh, hang on a second. That did not work as I anticipated. So we have this little clip embedded in it, but the way I clicked on it didn't work. Where you can see the male and the female red-tailed hawks switching on their nest. It's just a great little hook to get kids interested in it. Later on in one of the lessons, we have the female hawk sitting on the nest through a snowstorm. So we'll talk a little bit more about bird cams in a minute. All right, there we go. We also have fun activities that are super hands-on related to the content at hand. So we'll go through all the different sorts and types of nests and the materials that are used in them, and then we challenge kids to go out and build a nest on their own. We have an outdoor version and an indoor version of this challenge if for whatever reason kids can't go outside. And just to make it fun for the 3 through 5 and 6 through 8 kids, we have the extra challenge of taping your 4 fingers together and leaving your thumb out so you can make your hand like a beak and try and build the nest that way. Just as kind of a fun little challenge because it's kind of crazy to think about the amazing structures that birds can build just using their beak. There are some nests that are woven, some that are made of mud, and I'm always just super impressed by how much time it must take to make these structures. Then we have super fun activities like dissecting an egg. And we go through these step by step because we do want them to be things that can be done independently. So if you can't do something like this together as a class, or you just want to refer folks to something, this is going to be a step-by-step guide for them. We include a materials list. We guide you through exploring the outside of the shell, cracking it open safely, looking at the contents, examining the inside of the shell, and then provide you this great diagram to see if you can find all these pieces and parts. I recently did this dissection for a summer camp, and I was demoing, so I had like a camera on my view, and students were doing it along with me, and it was super fun. But it was really funny because the parents would come in and the egg would disappear when we were done, and then 2 minutes later, the egg would come back in snack form. So they didn't go to waste, which was great. All right, so that's kind of a quick overview of Cooped Up Kids and the sort of things that you can expect to find inside of it. Interactive slides, step-by-step guides, and fun hands-on activities, all blended in with great content. But if you're looking for something that you can send to kids, we know some teachers have been asking, do you have materials that I can send to individual students? Some folks I know, like Ithaca School District for a time, it had school buses dropping off materials to kids. This is the one that I've been recommending. This is the Explorer's Guidebook. It's available as a free download, so if you have ability to print or your kids have ability to print, they can print this for free from our website, or it's available as a print and you can purchase copies in English or Spanish to distribute. We do have the ability to do shipping again, so that's super fun. Inside are 7 activities to explore independently or outside with guidance. This was written originally inspired by the Every Kids in a Park initiative started by President Obama to get 4th grade kids free access to all of our national lands. So it is written at the 4th grade level, but it's great for younger kids if they have somebody going through it with it, and fine for older kids as well. It guides you through some fun activities like doing a sound map, so that you can get out there and open up your senses, start really listening to things that you might not have noticed before in your neighborhood. If you're doing them with kids as a class, there's a great opportunity to come back together and do some discussion. It's always fun to hear what kids are surprised about. We also have things like classic super fun activities like scavenger hunts built in and habitat component hunts and things like that. So lots of fun activities in there, and then it takes you all the way to some bird ID activities based on the Merlin Bird ID app. So it can be a great way to scaffold up to identifying birds. All right, now I want to take you in the time that we have left to some resources from the lab's many programs. So I'm going to exit our slideshow here, and you should be seeing my screen now. Okay, so hopefully you are seeing the Bird Academy website. This is academy.allaboutbirds.org. And this is jam-packed with great materials. Particularly, I want to draw your attention to the learning games. This is where all of our interactives live. So there's amazing real games like Flap to the Future, which you may remember was featured in one of the slides I showed. This is a fun game that shows you the advantages and disadvantages to different evolutionary steps along the uh, path to our modern birds. So you start out as a tawa, and then you see these stats. And so it has leg muscles, no flight feathers, no flight muscles. And then you start to move up. You can tell that I haven't played this game on this computer yet because I haven't unlocked the next level. But the next would be the Microraptor, and you can see it has lower stats on leg muscles, higher stats on flight feathers, and you kind of go through these different stages and play the game and learn the advantages and disadvantages. And then at the very end, you get to kind of make your own future bird prediction by playing with the stats. So that's Flap to the Future. It's super fun. I find it hard. I'm really bad at it. And then I watch kids like zoom through it. Another super fun game is Beast Box. And we'll come back to that in a minute because there's some cool themes that we can play with here. A couple of the other interactives that I want to draw your attention to is the Wall of Birds. This is a mural that is in the Cornell Lab of Ornithology building. It was painted by scientific illustrator Jane Kim. And all of these birds are painted at life size. And there is a representative from every extant family of birds. And then the creatures that you see that are grayed out are steps along the evolutionary pathway to birds or extinct birds, extinct modern birds over here. So and then down here, there's one black caiman, which is kind of the other branch of the same evolutionary pathway, birds' distant cousins. It's kind of wild to think that the closest living relative to a bird is a caiman. So pretty cool. Or crocodiles or alligators. And then what's so fun about this is you can just get to know birds from all over the world. So I'm going to click on this guy because he's got his wings spread and I think he looks amazing. And then you click on a bird, it zooms you in. You can read about the bird. You can listen to the sounds. It's kind of a sweet call. Learn a little bit about the family it represents, and then see where it's been reported recently in eBird. So this is a live range map. What I love to do with this is such a great way to introduce kids to the diversity of birds. They can explore this. I love to challenge them to find the coolest bird or the most colorful bird or the bird they think is the strangest or that has the best head accessories. You know, you could do so many funny things with this. For older kids, if we're talking about evolution, I say try to find a bird that shows sexual selection. So they might choose something that has just a ridiculously long tail, like the long-trained nightjar. So there's all sorts of great ways that you can use this as kind of a jumping off point for research or just as an exploration to get to know birds from around the world. Cool. Another great resource I want to share with you, a couple more fun interactives. All about bird anatomy. This is a little bit higher level. You can get as super in-depth to bird anatomy as you want to. You can get into the circulatory system, you can get into the urogenital system, the nervous system, or you can just kind of focus on cool body parts. I like to look at the muscles and kind of think about the flight muscles and how important those are. The respiratory system of birds is just super cool if you're not familiar with it. The air sacs in their bodies that help them just get the absolute most out of their oxygen out of the air that they breathe. And then also, I really like to use the feather section. So the feathers are really useful often for kind of describing a bird that you see. So it can be important for learning to talk about birds. Where did you see the color on the bird? It was on its chest, it was on its belly, its flank. So you can kind of get familiar with these different parts and learn how to talk about birds. If you want to get super fancy, there is a flashcard mode, but in kind of its basic settings, it's absolutely everything. So you want to make sure that you turn off everything and only turn on the one you want. So then you can use the flashcards to test your knowledge. So that's all about bird anatomy. There are a couple more that are super fun and lots of information. I recommend All About Fancy Nails and All About Feathers for older kids to learn about kind of the origin of these amazing structures and the amazing colors of birds. We have a lot on bird songs and we have a lot on nature sounds here. You may not know, but we have a department called our Conservation Bioacoustic Center, and it is just rife with amazing research and materials, and that's why we have such a rich uh, sound activity and support collection. So we have All About Birdsong, which is another good one. We have this super fun game called Birdsong Hero. So I'm going to make you play a couple rounds with me because it's great. There's kind of this introduction video, which we won't watch, which tells you how to read a spectrogram, because Birdsong Hero is about learning to interpret sounds. So what we see here on the right are these spectrograms, and they are a way to visualize sound. So on the vertical axis, higher up is a higher pitch, lower down is a lower pitch. And then the intensity of the color from purple to this kind of bright, almost pinky orange is loudness. So you have pitch and loudness. And of course, it's across time. So let's listen to this song. And then your challenge is to think about what you're hearing and see if you can match it to the spectrogram. I'll play that one again. Went by really fast, didn't it? All right, anybody have a guess for what they think they were hearing? You can guess by letter. All right, looks like we've got lots of A's. Let's check it out. Oh, nice. You guys are good. All right, let's try another one. What a strange sound. So here's where I think it's important to start thinking about these spectrograms and the number of notes or the number of parts you're hearing. So to me, that's one part. There's a lot going on there, but there's not like a break in the sound. And like you guys, I think it's probably letter A. A common, oh my gosh, I'm going to say that wrong. A common park? It's fun that there's a human down here too. Let's do just one more because I love them so much. Oh, I studied this bird for a couple years. think it's a beautiful song. The trills are kind of hard, aren't they? But I think I'm starting to see what looks like it must be the trill pattern, this kind of line, 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 line. They all seem to have it. Couple A's, couple C's. I think the C's have started to win it, so. Victoria's saying, like, without the bird picture, recognizing the song, it would be hard to say. It is kind of hard to say, isn't it? Let's listen one more time. Ba-ba-ba-ba-da-da. So what I'm hearing in the beginning is 2 short little notes. Ba-ba. All right, let's see. Yeah, but we had lots of A's too. Let's check out that one. So this has that trill straight at the end, but I think that beginning is a little different. That's a hard one. All right, nice job. And you can go through these, and at the end, if you get most of them right, you become a birdsong hero, and then you can step up to advanced. But it's just a super fun way to think about song, because we don't often think about song as a visual thing. And it can help folks because we don't really have a great language to describe sound. It's hard to describe what a wood thrush sounds like, unless you're Thoreau, and then you might say something like, you imagine what does the gates of heaven sound like. So this is a fun way to try and visualize song because it can be a challenge to learn. I noticed somebody pointed out that spectrograms can be a great thing for kids to kind of draw into their nature journal about a bird, and I love that. You can make your own visual representation for a bird song to help you remember it. Okay, cool. All right, one more sound learning game I want to show you is Beast Box. It's pretty funky, pretty fun. Haven't played it before though. It can be maybe a little overwhelming, so we'll just go through a couple things about it. So this is a game that we created in conjunction with Ben Murin. He is a grad student at Cornell and a Nat Geo explorer and a beatboxer. And he goes out and he records nature sounds. So I'm just going to scroll down. If you just scroll down from the game, you'll see this stuff. He records nature sounds and then beatboxes with them and creates music. So this game is all about matching animals to an ecosystem. So you'll see all the different list of animals here that are included in the game and the sounds that they make. And you can hear the sound a little popping there. You can hear the sound as it was recorded before it was added to the music. And then if you scroll down just a bit further, you'll see the different ecosystems here. And so we actually have a free set of lessons that accompanies this, and I'll ask Susan to share a link to those in the chat window for you that really dive into more depth into the ecosystems and challenge kids to find all the animals of one ecosystem. It's a fun game to just kind of play around on, but it's super fun to try and match the ecosystems. So you find the different beats that represent the ecosystems up here. And so you can choose one to start with, or you can start by finding some animals that you think would go together. So I want to do Okavango River Delta. I'm going to click on that. It's going to change the background beat. And now I got to find animals that I think would be on the Okavango River Delta. I think you can hear the different sound that the elephant adds to the song. And so you can just kind of add animals in there. And I think the whale is a poor choice for this ecosystem. So I'm going to go ahead and click her off. But I think a wildebeest might be a better choice. And as I'm putting these up, you'll start to notice that they have kind of themed outfits. So they're all inspired by hip-hop artists of particular eras. And this was created in conjunction with the hip-hop museum at Cornell. And you'll find more information about that in these too. All right, let's see if I can get the rest of them. Can you tell I've played this game before? So we've got a gray crowned crane now, and I've got ibis. And let's see, one more. Alright, I'm gonna go, yes, that's the one. A tropical bobo. And then when you get them
Beast
all,
mode.
you unlock beast mode, which means you have all of them, and then you can click up here, and you'll hear the full song that Ben Muren created, inspired by this ecosystem.
Sounds of the wildest
And then you
waters
can
of
make
Africa.
the characters break dance. So it's kind of a play on the idea of when animations break. Cool. So you can do that for all the different ecosystems. It's fun to break kids into groups and challenge them to do different ones since there are 6 ecosystems to choose from. All right. And then another amazing sound resource and just media resource in general is Macaulay Library. And I just wanted to share this with you because for the most part, these media can be used for education for free. Obviously, if you have access to internet, you can come on here and play these all the time. But if you need to download them, you might be able to do it for free if it's for an educational purpose. So let's explore a little bit. You can enter any species here. We don't just have birds, we have amphibians and insects and mammals. We actually have a pretty great repository of marine animals here because our conservation bioacoustics department does a lot of work with whales and ocean noise and just kind of general ocean noise monitoring. So in the spirit of that, let's check out one of the first sounds I ever heard from here, a bearded seal. So you just put it in there and you search, and then you'll see that this has 0 pictures, 0 videos, but 29 audio. So if I was looking for audio only on a different one, I would click audio, that would filter it. Another great thing to know is over here, you'll see ways that you can sort. So I'm going to go by best quality. You can do more filters, but this is, I think, good enough for our purposes. Actually, no, we'll do one more. Let's say I want this for an educational program. I know I'm not going to have internet. I know I'm going to want to download it if possible. So I'll make sure that what I'm looking at are requestable media. So there are things that I might be able to get my hands on. All right, let's check out this one, I think.
KLNS catalog number 112595.
First time I heard that, I thought, how is that a living creature? It sounds like a spaceship landing. And it just goes and goes and goes. These ocean sounds are just so otherworldly. Super fun to check out. So if you're doing a nature program or you want to have your kids explore, this is a great place to go. One thing that I will warn you is that the search bar after you're at this part defaults to birds. So if you're like looking at a seal and then you think, oh, I want to go look at a whale, you got to remember to switch to all animals. But let's check out a bird for the hay of it. Let's maybe do, oops, a common raven. I was hearing these outside today. And so here you can see, wow, not many pictures, huh? I thought for sure there'd be more pictures of ravens. But you can see you can sort by these different types of media. So if we did something like a super common bird, like a northern cardinal, you're going to start to see the, oh, wait a second. I have it filtered by requestable media. That's what's happening. So it's less for the pictures because most of our pictures come from eBird, and so those are people sharing their personal photos, so those aren't requestable. But most of our sounds are requestable. But if I were to clear that requestable media filter, you would start to see 93,000 pictures of cardinals. Can't blame them. Oh my gosh, look at that one. Oh, that's so funny. So yeah, Macaulay Library is a great place to explore, and I hope you will check it out. A couple other places that I recommend you keep in the back of your mind are All About Birds. This is an online field guide. It has everything you need to know about North American birds. Just search them. Let's go ahead and go for our northern cardinal friend. And you'll see down in the overview section, cool facts. Um, the female northern cardinal sings. Not many people think about female birds singing, but the female North American cardinal does, or northern cardinal, excuse me, does. And you can look at maps and sounds and all this great ID info. If you want your kids to research local birds, this is just a wealth of really reliable information for them. All right, another favorite resource are the bird cams. These are cams.allaboutbirds.org. If you find yourself in a remote teaching situation in spring, these are great because you can check in on nests, or if you just want to bring nature into your classroom, you can track live nests through these bird cams. This time of year, we have feeder cams. None of them are going to be active at this time of night, unfortunately. But we have the hummingbird feeder cam that you can check out in Texas during migration season. This is particularly exciting, which it is migration season. If we jump back in time, oh, it's raining. Or I love checking out what's at the lab feeder cams. This is a great place to go if you want to check out. We'll jump back in time, about 4 hours. If you want to challenge your kids to identify birds, or you can even watch these and see if you can come up with fun observational questions to do with your kids. What birds prefer to eat from the tray feeder? What prefer to eat from the tube feeder, like this red-winged blackbird? You could turn it into a little study. Ooh, hello, red-bellied woodpecker. Thank you for joining us. And then another cam that'll be active all year round is our Panama fruit feeder cam. This is super fun. Even at night, they sometimes have some pretty fun visitors. But again, we'll jump back in time by a couple hours. Oh, there's a mott. And so you can take a break from winter if you need to and see what life is like in Panama on a fruit feeder cam. So these are just some resources and ways that even in virtual learning, you can bring the natural world, into your teaching. So I hope that you have found a resource that will be useful to you tonight. do encourage you, if you have any questions or you're looking for a resource later, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. You can always reach us at our email at k12lab@cornell.edu or find us on social media. They call it social, but it's actually kind of lonely, so please add us on Twitter. And with that, I just want to remind you that if you need a letter of completion for one contact hour, please email us at the address there and we'll be sure to send that out to you. We do also offer CEUs with our webinars, and you can learn more about that on our website. For a small fee, you can get one CEU either for attending all 10 webinars or attending 5 of our series and doing an implementation plan, or attending one, doing an implementation plan, and writing up how the implementation goes. So we just try to make it as adaptable to you as if you need your different types of PD credits. But again, don't hesitate to email for CEUs. Does anybody have any questions? Oops. Not mean to do that. So Deborah is asking about activities in the Explorer's Guidebook, and do they refer to eBird, Merlin, and other online resources? The guidebook mentions that a couple of the activities are modeled off of Merlin, but you don't need them to do this at all. And it will mention eBird, like you could submit a list of birds that you saw to eBird. It's kind of like on the back of the booklet as a suggestion of what you can go further with. So Charlie's pointing out that a lot of what we focused on was kind of East Coast. I am very guilty of looking up East Coast birds, aren't I? Our resources that we use try to be very adaptable to any part of the country. So a lot of the birds that we focus on in our the bird ID, for example, we do have some eastern birds in there with the blue jay and the snapshot from our feeder cam, but we also try and do things like a red-tailed hawk and mourning dove, and we also feature starlings and red-winged blackbirds, which are birds that are all over the country. So we do try to make it very applicable and adaptable. All right. Well, okay, Deborah's also asking about Merlin. Sounds seem to be heavy on the East Coast recordings. Do people submit to it or only professionals? Fantastic question. A lot of the sounds that are coming into Merlin right now are actually from eBird. And eBird is our largest, and actually probably the largest in the world, biodiversity citizen science project. And people just report the birds that they see anywhere, anytime. And along with that, they can submit media like photos or recordings that they make. So we have a range of quality of recordings, people recording on their cell phone, people with special microphones and booms and things that they are not booms. Parabolas, thank you, parabolas that they use to capture sound. So there's a variety of sound, but what we put into Merlin in the app are only going to be the highest quality sounds. But if you're out birding and you record a sound and you want to use it to help prove the idea of a bird, you put that into eBird, it goes into the Macaulay Library. Awesome. I'm gonna go ahead and mute myself for a second, but I'll hang out for a little bit longer. Please feel free to keep asking questions. Oh, good question, Deborah. Are there Cornell resources on recording sounds? I want to say yes, that there's actually advice on how to do that in the Macaulay Library. So MacaulayLibrary.org. I want to say that somewhere in here there is advice on recording sound. All right, so if you go to the help section, right over here, you'll see recording tips. There's tips for recording on your smartphone, as well as just general sound recording tips. And Susan just shared an article from Macaulay as well. You're very welcome. All right, I'm gonna stop my screen share and I'm gonna mute myself. But if you have any more questions, feel free to ask them. I'll hang out for a couple more minutes.